for assisting in the opening exercise of our joint meeting. Well, I want to welcome everyone to this meeting of both clubs. Well, we're in two divisions, Division 23 Central and Division 24. It's a pleasure to have the ladies of the Garden Parish interclubbing with us this evening. And of course, I'm looking forward to a great meeting, informative, as we have our guest speaker who will share with us on the topic estate planning and why a will may not be enough. So we're in to be educated as though we can proceed in making our future plans, because death is inevitable. And of course, with that, we need to put things in place so that we can ensure that our legacies are distributed fairly and equally to our loved ones. President Audrey, I will hand over to you to do your opening remarks.
Hi, good evening again, fellow Kiwanians and guests. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I must welcome each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Right, so this evening, yes, as we'll be listening to how best we can make plans for our future and for planning our estate, I certainly hope that we will all benefit from this talk and that we'll learn something. So welcome again, everyone, and great having you all.
Yes. At this time, we'll have greetings from Division 24 from LGCJ.
Good evening, President Paul. Good evening, fellow Kiwanians. I am really, one second. Thank you for the invitation. And I would just like to congratulate both clubs on this joint venture in terms of getting education to our members and the general public or guests who are invited. I wish you a successful meeting, and I trust that each and every participant will benefit from the discussion. So thank you.
Thank you very much, LGCJ. And we'll have greetings from our own division, Division 23 Central, LG Rosie.
Thank you, President Paul, President Audrey, fellow Kiwanians and guests, good evening to all. It is such a pleasure to be here this evening as two clubs join forces to bring information on a topic such as estate planning, which is something we don't often think about. We don't give it enough thought. We don't think about it as often as we should. And it is something that can impact not just, I mean, well, we'll be gone by the time we get around to actually using it, but it impacts the legacy we leave behind and the persons that we leave behind. But, you know, aside from the topic, what excites me even more by this meeting is the collaboration across division. And I want to congratulate both presidents on this initiative. And I look forward to seeing even more of such activities taking place among our clubs. Even as I encourage you, I want to share with you that we at the divisional level, all the LGs in all 5 divisions, are also looking at how is it that we can collaborate and create opportunities for our clubs to be able to have joint events such as this and projects. We believe that if we come together as one across all 5 divisions, the impact that we will have across our island will be even greater. And therefore, we can change so much more lives. And so listen out for more. We will be coming on with things that you can all do together. And I know that you will be looking forward and participating in that as well. So let me say thanks again for inviting me to join you this evening. I look forward to what I know will be an interesting and informative presentation. And I wish for you a very good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, LG Rosie. At this time, we'll have a welcome and introduction of members and visiting club. And I'll call on President-elect Junior to proceed.
Thank you, President Paul. I'm here, very much here.
Yes.
Just came in, but I made it on time.
Okay, wonderful. Good to have you.
Yes. And I'd like to welcome all our Kiwanians that are present tonight and those that will be with us later today. I noticed that we have quite a number of Kiwanians on tonight, as it will be a very interesting meeting whereby we are twinning tonight with Kiwanis Club of the Garden Parish, Ocherias. And we want to welcome our special guest tonight who will be sharing with us the importance of estate planning and why why that a will might not be enough in these cases. We look forward to having her tonight, and we look forward for a very good meeting and a very informative meeting. I know that most of us are looking forward to that. So without any further ado, I just ask the clubs from outside of Jamaica to bring greetings at this point. Those Kiwanis clubs outside of Jamaica that would like to bring greetings at this point.
President Paul, President Audrey, this is Director Roy. I bring you warm greetings from Kiwanis Club of Toronto, Caribbean. So
Will it be warm there now?
It's warming up. We have 7 members present and we look forward to a very informative meeting. We wish you a very successful meeting. Thank you.
And we certainly thank you for coming all the way from Toronto, Canada. And we welcome you and we show you you'll enjoy the warmth of Jamaica, although it's miles across.
Thank you for having us.
Right. Those are the clubs outside of Jamaica.
Good evening. This is Dawn Campbell.
Yeah.
Greetings from our members. I'm from the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, South Dade in Miami, Florida.
Not so far away, and I trust that it's not so cold.
Yeah, we're not so far from you.
And it would be so, and therefore it would be so cold. Thank you for coming, and you're certainly welcome to our meeting tonight. And
yeah, I believe we have a few more members. I can't really see how many we have, but I think maybe at least 3.
Okay. We sincerely hope that that number will increase as we go along. All right, thank you for coming. Any other Kiwanians outside of Jamaica?
Hi, this is Janet Grieve, Secretary from the Rosedale Laurelton Club in Jamaica, Queens, New York.
Oh, from Jamaica, but all the way in the north.
In New York.
I know.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for coming. How many of you are on tonight?
I think it's just myself right now.
Yes. All right, thank you for coming. I sincerely hope that you'll be joined by others as the meeting progresses. Those clubs outside of Jamaica, any other? Division 25 then. Those clubs from Division 25 that would like to bring greetings at this time. No? Division 24 then, our twinning division tonight. Those clubs from Division 24.
Me first?
President Audrey is on.
Yes. Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests.
Yes.
Yes. From my club, there are about 7 members and 2 prospects. There is IPP Almarie Chintasing, Kiwanian Patrice, Kiwanian Georgia, Kiwan PT Angela Strudwick, Kiwanian Ladada, Kiwanian Cherie, Kiwanian Anne-Marie Bishop, and there is our prospect Trisha, and I don't know if one of my members can remind me of, there's another prospect who was invited this evening. I can't remember her name. She was invited by a member, but it's great for us to be here, and I'm certainly looking forward to what will be presented. And it's great collaborating with Kiwanis Club of Kingston. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and we certainly welcome you tonight, all of you, in particular our prospects. We welcome them, especially welcome them because we like for them to become members in due course. So we hope that they will enjoy this meeting, and by so doing, they will attend and become members soon. Thank you for coming again. Division 24.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, good evening to you. We are hearing.
Yes, I bring you cool greetings from the Kiwanis Club of Moneague.
Okay.
This evening, we are so happy to be interclubbing with the twin clubs.
Right.
And we're looking forward for great information. Interclubbing with me tonight are Lieutenant Governor CJ Bury, Director Marlene Forrester, Treasurer Ansel. Others should be joining later, and I am DLGE Donna Coombs.
Thank you for coming, DLGE, and we certainly welcome you tonight. We trust that you will enjoy the meeting. We know you'll enjoy it. And thank you and your team for coming. We certainly welcome you.
Good evening.
Good evening, we're hearing.
I am Ochurias.
Okay, Ochurias.
We are the father of God and parish. We are so proud of them for their achievement. And I'm so happy for the collaboration tonight. We wish you both clubs and our Kiwanis in Jamaica all the best. Ochurias coming to clubbing with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We certainly welcome you and thank you for coming again. Division 24, any other? Twenty-three East. Division 23 East. Are there any?
Thank you, President. I'm President-elect Junior. This is DLG Eileen. Bringing greetings from our President Simone and other members joining you, DP Shino, Director Kamiko, and myself. So we wish for you a wonderful presentation this afternoon, and I want to big up all the LGs in the house. I know you have a lot, and I'm looking forward to the estate plan. Yes, and estate planning information. We're looking forward to it. All the very best.
And thank you. Thank you for coming. DLG. Division 23 East. Division 23 East. If not, let us go west. Division 23 West. Division 23 West. Division 23 Central, or own division. That is Kingston Club, that is. Are there any clubs that would like to bring greetings at this time? 23
Certainly,
Central.
PE Junior, certainly there are clubs that would like to bring a greeting.
Okay, go ahead and do so.
I am Kiwanian Eurydice, co-chair Eurydice from Kiwanis Club of Central, 23 Central, Surrey Online.
Okay.
And with me are 5 other members, so 6 of us at the moment interclubbing with you.
Yeah.
And I know that number will continue to grow throughout the night. But in the interim, we're looking forward to this fantastic, informative meeting. So thank you for inviting us. And have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm P. Shauna from the Kiwanis Club of Young Professional Kingston.
Young Professional.
That present is just myself. I'm looking forward to this presentation.
Yeah, we're really glad to have you tonight. And we sincerely hope that that number will grow as we go into the meeting tonight. All right?
Junior?
Yes, man, I'm right here.
I bring you warm greetings from the Kiwanis Club of North St. Andrew.
Hi.
Old police.
Well, yeah, man.
There are about 6 of us at this time. I'm expecting the number to grow to about 20.
Yes.
I am looking forward really to this presentation.
Right.
All the best from the men from NSA.
Yes.
I am PPE Dudley.
Yes, man.
Yes. Your Ralston recognize you. Thank you, Dudley. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Well, not my fault.
Whose fault is it?
Yours.
All right, good, I'll accept. But now we know where we can find each other.
Good. Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you for coming, Dudley. We welcome you and we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Yes. 23 Central, any others?
My apologies, I seem to have missed 23 West when it was
No
called.
worry yourself, man. Just do your thing.
This is DP Kevin from the diplomatic team of the Kiwanis Club of Linstead, bringing greetings on behalf of President Beverly. I am a lone ranger at this time, but don't worry, the flat bridge might be a little bit impossible at this time, but the bus is coming, the team will be here. Looking forward to enjoying the meeting.
Thank you for coming, man. I will welcome you. And we're sure that your team will be here as the time goes on. And we're certainly glad to have you tonight. Central, 23 Central.
P. Junior.
Yes.
Would you accept greetings from the Kiwanis Club of Stony Hill?
Right.
On behalf of our president.
Okay, we certainly accept that. And we're glad to have you from Stony Hill tonight. We're always glad to have you. And we always welcome you. Whether you're coming from Stony Hill or any other hill, it is good to have you. Thank you. Let us move. If there are no more from Central, 23 Central, we move to our SLPs. And I know we usually have quite a
pleasant good evening, everyone.
Yes.
This is President Arania from the Dunoon Park Technical High School Key Club. And with me, I have my lovely faculty advisor, Aldith Douglas, whilst awaiting more members. You know, it's always a pleasure to be here, and we do give thanks for the invitation.
Right. And thank you for coming. We always look forward to you being here. And more times than one, you are always here. So we thank you for coming, and we know you'll enjoy tonight's meeting and information which will be brought to you. Although you're not quite ready for that kind of thing yet, but you will enjoy it and you'll get some good information. All right? SLPs, any other SLP that would like to bring greeting at this time?
Yes, good evening. I am President Deborah Heron from the St. Jude's High School Key Club. Always great to be here as well. You know, love the company of the more experienced people in life. Always learn something, you know. And I must say I enjoy it. I do believe I am currently alone. My bus has not left the station just yet, you know. School has kind of had a rope around our neck, but hopefully more members will join in shortly. Thank you for having us.
President, I thought you were going to say you like the company of the old men.
No.
You would be wrong anyhow.
I'm pretty sure most of the persons in this meeting are much younger than I am.
I wouldn't say anything about that. Thank you for coming, and we certainly welcome you tonight, as usual. Our SLPs. What about those non-Kiwanians on the platform? Would you like to bring greetings tonight?
Good night. This is Director Tiffany from CSO, but I'm also here with my daughter, Ariana Hope, She
Good.
is the vice president for Mona Heights Primary School Builders Club.
Okay, good. And thank you for bringing her.
Welcome.
Any other non-Kiwanians that would like to bring greetings? If there are no other at this time.
Sorry, PE.
One.
Stefan Ramper, Kiwanis Club of Downtown Kingston. Happy
Okay.
to join us. Yes. DP.
Thank you for coming. What about your delegation?
They are somewhere in the crowd.
Okay. Okay. We'll identify them later. Any other clubs? Any other club that would like to bring greetings at this time? Or anybody else would like to bring greetings at this time? Even if your time went by and you didn't get to do so, you could do so now. Okay, if there are no other at this time, President Paul, I will turn back proceedings over to you. And
Yes.
thank you. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you very much, President-elect Junior. But before I move on to the apologies for absence, I want to make special mention of two prospects, Mr. Malik Kellier and Nicholas Lewis, for joining us this evening.
Okay.
It's great to see both gentlemen on this evening, and looking forward to see you further in other meetings and projects upcoming for the Kiwanis Club of Kingston. At this time, I don't have any apologies for absence. Secretary DLG Willie, did you receive any?
No, I didn't, President Paul.
Okay.
I believe, however, no, we did get a message from Vice President Newton, said he'd be coming in late.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Secretary DLG Willie. President Audrey?
Yes, President Paul. All right. For anniversary, my secretary is having some difficulties joining. And so I'm going to ask Kiwani and Marie Bishop kindly to do that section, the anniversary and birthday section for us, please. Thank you.
Good night, President Paul, LG's fellow Kiwanians. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Happy to be on the platform. In terms of our club, Kiwanis Club of the Garden Parish, I'm not aware that any of us are celebrating any anniversary or birthdays at this time between the month of January to February. I now hand over to you, President Paul.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Kiwani and Marie. Well, for the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, today is our distinguished Secretary Jeff Madden's birthday. And I trust that, well, I saw most of our members reached out to him and gave him that personal call to wish him happy birthday. There are special occasions coming up for other members of the club. Our Kiwani and Roy Curtis is on February 25th, he celebrates his birthday. Kiwani and Windsor Sawyers on February 28th, and our YCPO chairman, DP Dalma James, on February 28th. Is there anyone on this platform celebrating birthday today or any special moment that you want to share with us? Anniversaries? Well, if not, I'll move on to Kiwanis Education by Secretary DLG Willie.
Thank you very much, President Paul. As we all know, this is K-Kids Week, but I'm going to speak generally on the Kiwanis Club
We're not hearing you, DLG Willie.
I'm okay.
Yes.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Sorry about that. Last week, we spoke about the service leadership program and the various programs carried out by the club. This week, I want to speak a little bit on what's service leadership and the committee, how it functions on service leadership program. This also being K-Kids Week, it is important to recognize the importance of our service leadership program. What's service leadership? Kiwanis International empowers people at every stage of life to become competent, capable, and compassionate leaders by helping them to help others through its service leadership program. Kiwanis teaches young leaders new ways to change the world by serving one child or one community at a time. The Committee on Service Leadership Program devises ways and means to establish and support Kiwanis Kids programs in elementary schools, Billis Club, in our junior high or middle schools, key clubs in high schools, and circuit K clubs in the universities and colleges, and action clubs for adults with disabilities. It encourages and promotes the activities of all our SLPs. The committee includes a Kiwanian advisor appointed to our SLPs. Ideally, the role of the committee is to understand, communicate, counsel, and develop a joint service role in the school and community. It should encourage and promote activities of all our service leadership clubs and promote the activities of all our service leadership program clubs sponsored by the club, as well as receive monthly reports on the service leadership program activities. Kiwanis support. Although the ultimate responsibility for sponsoring is that of the Kiwanis Board of Directors, the sponsoring function is most directly carried out by the Kiwanis Club Committee on Service Leadership Program, assisted by the Kiwanis advisor and by a faculty advisor appointed by the school leadership. Sponsoring an SLP club goes just beyond just providing funds. It opens the door to new opportunities for club members and inspires them to become leaders themselves. The Kiwanis Club of Kingston has had an enviable record of service among its service leadership program clubs, and our achievements in this area are no doubt due to the mentorship and training imparted by our members through the tireless efforts and unwavering sacrifice. Many of our key clubbers credit Key Club as helping develop their early communication and leadership skills, and much of the success of the sponsored youth movement in Jamaica is due to the pioneering work of the club in this area. The Kiwanis Club of Kingston formed the first Circuit K Club in October 1974 at Michael University College, then the Michael College, and the first K-Kids Club in February of 1999 at the New Hope Preparatory. Finally, the major challenge facing the club over the past administration, however, has been to find committed Kiwanis who are interested in assisting at our schools as Kiwanis advisors. In the past, Kiwanis have not helped due to time constraints and in some cases the lack of sufficient knowledge of the service leadership program, and they do not want to be embarrassed by a younger K family member. Fellow Kiwanis, just as a point of information, the club presently has 18 service leadership clubs as follows: Builders Club 9, and we have 8 key clubs and 1 Circle K club. The many success stories are demonstrated by the positive impact that this program has had on the development of young minds in our club. Today, that role remains very critical, and our efforts with the service leadership program and the youth needs to be intensified and sustained. In developing young leaders, Kiwanians have the ability to directly impact their lives and make a difference. Thank you, President Paul. And I hope that our members gather some information from that Kiwanis education. Over to you, President Paul.
Yes, thank you very much, Secretary Deirdre Willie, for sharing the legacy of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston and its enviable service leadership program that we have maintained over a number of years. As we proceed with our agenda, I'm going to call on DP Arturo Stewart to introduce our guest speaker. DP Arturo, over to you, sir.
Thank you, President Paul and President Audrey, distinguished Kiwanians and guests. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce the guest speaker, Mrs. Abiola Pereira Bertram. Abiola, who is regularly called Abby, attended Campion College and was admitted to practice in Jamaica in November 2003 after graduating from the University of the West Indies, having first obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting and management, and thereafter a Bachelor of Laws degrees with honors. And she continued to graduate from the Norman Manley Law School, where she obtained the legal education certificate. Abby joined the firm in 2003 and was appointed a partner in 2009. She began her practice in the field of probate and administration of estates, estate planning and preparation of wills and testamentary documents. Although she continues in that field, her practice has grown to include conveyancing of real estate, including the sale and purchase of property and leases of residential and commercial property. Abiola has a significant labor law and industrial relations practice involving negotiations between trade unions and employers. She also has a growing corporate and commercial law practice, which includes incorporation of companies, including charitable organizations, and the handling of tax exemption applications on their behalf. Abiola is a member of the Jamaican Bar Association, and additionally, she has had the privilege of representing Jamaica in regional and international volleyball competitions as a member of the national women's senior team between 1998 and 2002. Fellow Kiwanians and guests, I have pleasure in passing over to Abiola Pereira Bertram, who will present on as guest speaker.
Thank you, Arturo. Good evening, President Paul, President Audrey, Kiwanians, guests. It is certainly a pleasure to be here this evening with you. It is as if I'm coming home. Having been in Key Club during my high school life and Cirque in my university life, it certainly feels like I am, among family. So I thank you for having me tonight, and I thank you for your enthusiasm as it relates to estate planning and a little beyond estate planning, but why a will may not be enough. So without further ado, I'm going to ask that I can be enabled to share my screen.
You are made a co-host.
I'm getting a different message.
Okay.
You can share. You can share.
No, I'm able. Now I'm able. Thank you. All right, so there we are. I'm just going to work out the logistics of this. All right, so thank you. Oh, thank you again. Let us start this slideshow. So why a will may not be enough? So the question is then, what is an estate? We come to talk about estate planning. What is an estate? Sometimes people think of an estate as something in the UK with unending meadows, unending fields, very large parcels of land, but really it's much more than that. It is not only confined to large property, large real estate, but really when we come to speak about an estate, and your estate in particular, I want you to consider what you own, your assets. Easily identifiable. If you have a car, you own a house, you have money or cash, jewelry, collections. Some people have stamp collections or music collections, art collections that are quite valuable, intellectual property, investments, both paper investments and online investments, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, cryptocurrency, and things like goodwill. So you want to take a stock of what it is that you do have, what do you own? And while you do that, you want to consider also the things that you owe, your liabilities, your debts. And when we speak about that, we speak about things like a mortgage or student loan or car loans or contract debt, whatever you may owe to someone else. You may say, well, I don't have any assets, but consider even your NHT contribution refunds could someday reach your pocket as an asset. So the question then is, well, now that I recognize that I have an estate, why plan? So planning gives you some form of control. I'm sure you would agree. When there's a plan in place, we know what is to happen. We know who is to benefit from something. We know who is to act, who is to do something, perhaps on your behalf when we're speaking about estates. And when we speak about estates in this context, I want you to join me in thinking of an estate, not just what happens after death, but also your affairs generally, even now. So you want to consider what will happen to those affairs, both now and at a time to come, perhaps when you're no longer here. And then we want to talk about the when. In planning, what planning really does, it assists you in avoiding what we call the probate process. Now, the probate process involves a will, or if there's no will, an application to the court in relation to an intestacy. And we will come to that in a minute. But this application to the court, whether there is a will or not, is timely. It is time consuming, I should say. It is costly. And what I would hasten to say is that a will before the court becomes a public document. So the will is proved, the court pronounces for the validity of a will, and after that will has been recorded at the court, it then becomes a matter of public record. What that means is that anyone can access the content of your will once it has been admitted to probate by the court. And when we say admitted to probate, we simply mean that the court has pronounced that the will is in fact valid, and then the executors are able to continue the process of administration of your estate. So again, we come to considering planning. Well, planning allows you to protect those who may be vulnerable, like minor beneficiaries or adults who have challenges. You can put special arrangements in place to provide for special categories of beneficiaries. Arrangements including guardianship, for example. So if you have children under the age of 18, minors, you would want to consider, well, what would happen if I or their other parent is not available to take care of them? Who would I want to appoint? If there are persons who are going through a divorce and who are going through sensitive times, whether through addiction or they have a challenge securing funds or keeping funds, retaining funds, planning your estate can allow you to make provision for persons even though you may not be putting everything in their hands at the same time. It's easy to see that planning also helps you to avoid conflicts because, as they say in Jamaica land we love, if you want to see a fight, just look for the dead left and you will find it. And unfortunately, it is something that we see in practice. Planning also allows you to protect your assets. You can maybe put an asset aside for a particular beneficiary, and it allows you to isolate assets. And we will come to the different vehicles or tools that we can use to protect your assets. And then, as we spoke about a little earlier, when we plan, we can minimize costs and fees, and we can also, in some form, ensure that the assets are available for beneficiaries and not available for creditors if we owe. So listen to this one. We're going to wake it up. So these are all your assets coming in. What can you do? So you would have seen there my idea of what a fit estate might look like. All the different tools that we can use, what we call a legal toolkit, to ensure that all of the various options available to you can be utilized. So let us start with one of them, and that would be life insurance. And I know that, as I believe it was LG Rosie had said, this is not a topic that people always enjoy speaking about. It's a touchy topic. Oftentimes people, specifically in Jamaica, are very private about what they do. They don't want anybody to know, but it does beg for some arrangement and planning of your affairs. So I'm happy that you're taking the time to take this in. So let us start with life insurance. And life insurance, as you would know, would be a contract where the policyholder takes out insurance and the insurer promises to pay on the death of the insured person a certain sum of money. And it's simple. To claim on this policy, you simply produce the proof of death, which would be their death certificate. In many cases, parties use it to meet the funeral arrangements of the deceased. And now we have family indemnity plans being offered more commonly across the country here in Jamaica. And so there are ways in which you can protect for certain beneficiaries and you can protect for final expenses. I make a point here to say, take care when you're taking out life insurance policies. We have seen that rather than naming a beneficiary on the life insurance policy, the party taking out the policy has instead put estate as the beneficiary. And what that does is certainly put the funds right back into your estate. So it will not go to a named beneficiary, and putting it back in your estate really means that your loved ones will have to then apply to the court, whether for probate or administration. And when we speak about probate, we speak about proving a will. And when we speak about administration, loosely speaking, we speak about the court approving an administrator to go ahead and stand in the shoes of the deceased person to collect in all the assets and then distribute them to the beneficiaries once all the creditors have been paid. So if the idea of life insurance is to avoid probate, avoid going to the court, then we want to ensure that we do not name an estate or the estate as the beneficiary, but we put the name of the person or persons we wish to benefit. All right. Another way that we can structure our affairs is a power of attorney. And now this is a document, it's a written document, as is the life insurance policy, that appoints someone to act in your place of course, now this person is going to be one in whom you have the utmost confidence. And when we say someone who acts in your place, oftentimes the power allows, this is the power of attorney. It allows the person who you appoint to do all things that you would have been able to do. You can see and appreciate immediately that it could be very far reaching. Now, in order to prepare a power of attorney, you only need to be 18 years or over and of sound mind and judgment. So that is one of the elements to create a power of attorney. It can be a simple document and it can become more complicated. It can be a tailor-made document just for you to cover particular issues, like, for example, maybe the sale of shares or the administration of someone's estate, or it could cover specifically bank accounts, or you could have a very broad power that appoints we call it the donee, appoint someone to act on your behalf in every single respect as you could have acted. A good point to note is that powers of attorney can be revoked. And that another point to note is that they are effective while you are alive, and at the time of your passing, they're nullified. Now, you want to consider a power of attorney to take care of instances where you are either incapable or unavailable. Now, for example, if you're overseas for an extended period, like in the pandemic, if you were overseas and you had business here in Jamaica and you wanted assistance, a power of attorney is a document that a person in Jamaica could have presented on your behalf, whether it be at the bank, whether it be to transact business at the National Land Agency in relation to registered land, or to transact shares, to do what you might have done had you been here. A power of attorney is a very useful tool. But I would say the timing is critical. You don't want to start looking about a power of attorney if you are incapacitated in any way. By incapacitated in this respect, I mean you are not of sound mind, because at that time, the law would not deem that you have sufficient capacity in order to give the power to the parties, and there would be perhaps a feeling of undue influence that would be inferred. So at the time of making a power of attorney, it is important that, yes, you are over 18 years old, but you are also of full mental capacity. So I would encourage you to have a power of attorney in place, to appoint someone who you are satisfied would do what you wish, would do as you wish, as you instruct, because it doesn't mean that you give them all the power. It means that the power of attorney allows them to act as you direct, right? If you're incapacitated, it also allows them to act as you would. And so, again, it is a very far-reaching document. And the good thing about it is that it can be tailor-made to your circumstances. So we move on a little bit now. We move on to what has been identified as a living will. And loosely speaking, these are your medical wishes. And this is a concept that we are seeing coming in from North America in particular. And what it is a written statement detailing your desires for future medical treatment in circumstances where you are not able to say what you would want to happen. For example, let us use the pandemic again. We have an issue where the vaccine is to be administered. What would your wishes be on that? Does anyone even know? Or if there is palliative care that is required, does anyone know what your wishes are? And so a living will allows you to state long in advance that these are my wishes. It's a declaration that can speak to both your physician, your doctor, and your family to say, in the event that this happens, this is what I want to be done. And so more and more, I have clients coming now to ask me to prepare living wills. So that is another tool in the bag, the Get Fit bag for the estate. Another tool that we can use is in relation to how we hold property. Now, property can, and remember now, all of this is with a view to minimizing time and costs. And so when you hold property jointly, let's take real estate, for example. On the death of a joint tenant, let's say there are two of you who own property together. On the death of a joint tenant, the surviving holder is the owner of the entire property. So in this case, there is no probate. We're not going to the court for an application to either approve of an executor or appoint an administrator to take care of your estate. In fact, the property does not fall to your estate. The person on title with you at the time of your passing will then enjoy being the only person on title having noted your death. It does minimize the transfer tax that is due on death and of course avoids the application to court. A similar benefit can be enjoyed when we come to speak about joint bank accounts. Spouses use it often, children and parents use it often. And this is in accordance with the bank's mandate now, with the mandate meaning the account opening documentation that you sign up when you sign up for the bank. And usually that account opening information indicates who benefits from the funds in their account. And provided it is a joint benefit for both or the multiple parties who are the account holders, then the survivor or survivors will then be the beneficiaries of what remains in the account at the time of your death. It is simple to access. You would simply produce the death certificate, or the survivor would produce the death certificate, and the banks would simply note that the account holder is now deceased. No transfer tax is payable, no application to court is required. Again, minimizing costs, minimizing time. And similarly, if you have joint shareholdings, if you have shares on a company that's listed on the stock exchange or any other, one way of arranging your affairs to minimize all of the possible effects of an estate, a matter going to an estate, is to have joint shareholdings in companies. Okay, another tool, trusts. Little used in Jamaica, but much more common elsewhere. I suspect it is on account of ensuring that the trust is funded. So let us speak a little about what a trust is. A trust is where one person is bound to deal with property transferred to him in a particular way and for the benefit of a specified person. So, for example, you could have a trust given to someone to say, I'm going to give you $50,000, or it is written, $50,000 will go to George for purposes that I have identified to him. Or $50,000 will go to George for him to take care of John for the next 10 years or so. A trust document, it is a document. Again, we're dealing with written documents. A trust is a very flexible tool. It allows you to appoint someone to control property for the benefit of another. It allows you to say what property and who is to benefit. And it also allows you to appoint a trustee to control that property. Again, we come to the importance of trust and integrity in who you would consider to appoint as a trustee, because this is the person who will have control of whatever asset it is to be able to have the benefit pass on to the named or
unnamed beneficiary. Trusts are widely used. In family situations, you would hear of a property being in trust for generations. And so what that does, it provides successive generations with access to the property without the property being at a risk of being sold or transferred out of the family. It also protects minors, where a trust could be set up, for example, to give a minor a certain payment every year or every month. Again, you can configure a trust if it is that you really think that your son or even your spouse could be a spendthrift. Then you could set up a trust to say, well, every month this amount is due to you, or that the property that is located at 2 Arden Road is for my child, but it is to be held in trust until they're a particular age. So a trust can also allow secretly for dependents. So you may say to your friend, I'm putting down $500,000 and it is to be applied as you know. And it would have been for that friend now to rely on the previous discussions that you would have had to then go ahead and share those funds or distribute those funds to the beneficiary that you would have identified. But the beauty about a trust, when I mention secret, there is a concept of a secret trust under the law. And in times gone by, it was commonly used in the UK, and I suppose elsewhere, where there were children that the spouse or partner did not know about, or someone else who the person making provision did not want the public to know. So the idea of a trust is that it is very flexible and you can now devise how you want it to look, who benefits. And the beauty about a trust is that a trust can be set up in your lifetime. So today you could get up and do a trust in favor of anyone, and that would take effect now. Whereas when we come to speaking about wills, we know that wills only take effect on death. Okay, so we come to speak about wills. So a will is a written document. We have laws that govern wills in a very strict sense, how it is to be made. We're not at a stage where you can broadcast your wishes over Instagram or Facebook and think that that has made your will. A will is required to be made in writing. And we will touch on a will because a will can be a simple document that you can do to protect your affairs, your estate, and it says what you want. A will can say what you want, and also that flexibility then is one of the keys in making a will. We want to, however, realize that that flexibility has a few issues that will arise that will cause that flexibility to be tempered. And I say that because there is a provision in our laws that allows someone to say, you have not made provision for me under your will. And I am a person who you have provided for during your lifetime. And I therefore am to enjoy that same protection and care on your passing. So the general rule is that you have what we call unfettered testamentary freedom, which really means it's your will, it's your assets, it's your estate. You can do what you wish, give it to whom you want, don't give it to whom you want, etc. But there is a concern that when this act is looked at, those who are dependent on you can make a claim to the courts to say, well, not so fast. No provision was made for me in John Brown's will, and I would like the court to declare that I have an interest in the estate. And oftentimes applications are made by, as I said, persons under 18, a spouse or a parent who was maintained by the deceased prior to death, or where there was a court order in place. And when this kind of application is made to the court can award payments or transfer of property. So it is very wide in terms of the discretion that the court brings to bear. So my response to that would be, if we move to making a will and you have decided that you don't want to leave a certain person you don't wish to name as a beneficiary, then my advice to you would be, explain why in your will. And I say explain why in your will because then the court has something to refer to when it wants to understand what your considerations were. What if it is that there is a joint account held by you and this person and you've already made adequate provision, for example. So there's no need to make provision in the will. So you want to explain, if it is that your circumstances fall into this scenario, why it is that you may have left out an individual as a beneficiary, or even if you're not leaving them out, just to be aware that this could be a claim on your estate. I seem to have been missing a slide, just the introduction into relation to what is a will. So I'm trying to cover that as we move along. So a will, this is kind of what it does in a nutshell. When you make a will, and a will could be, it is certainly written on any kind of paper. It could be in hand, it could be typed, it could be printed, computer printed. When I say typed, I mean typewriter. That will suffice. What is important is that a will, when you make it, it revokes any earlier will that you would have made. So no two wills stand on both at the same time. Making a will revokes or nullifies an earlier will. Now we move then to some other content in the will. A will, properly drafted, will appoint an executor. An executor is the person who will take your shoes on your passing, and that is the time at which the executor's authority arises, not before your passing, but on your passing. That is when the executor's role begins. You may also wish to appoint a trustee. Now, we spoke about trust earlier, and we spoke about someone being appointed to control property for the benefit of another. We can do that in our lifetime, or we can do that also in our will. So you want to think about those persons, and you also want to think about, if I have minor children, who is it that I could leave? Whose care can I leave them in? Who will I be confident that will be raising them in the way that I would want? So there are three, perhaps, roles that you want to think about. Maybe one person suits them all. Maybe it's three individual people that we're thinking about. But you have the opportunity to name the persons, ideally with their agreement. Certainly guardianship, you want that person to agree that they will be taking care of your children. Executors and trustees too, you want them to at least be aware that this is what you're planning to do and have their consent that they're agreeable to acting on your behalf in this way. Now, other than identifying what you have and who you want it to go to, a will can also determine something like how you want your body to be disposed of, whether you want a church service, and the like. So a will can speak to that. If that is important to you, it can be included in your will. Now we move to how we give what we have remaining at the time of our death. And yes, you can have what we call specific gifts. I give to John Brown my trophy collection. I give all my furniture. I give my car. But other than what you specifically give, we refer to a clause that we advise that you have in the will as a residuary clause. And in that residuary clause, what you're going to say there is that I give everything, or everything that I have not named, I give to so-and-so, and we regard them as their residuary beneficiary. I want to say there that you want to pay special attention to who you would name as this residuary beneficiary, because oftentimes the residuary beneficiary can have a windfall because you're not quite aware of what might be in the residuary clause at the time you pass. And importantly, you want to sign your will. You must sign a will. And we say that 2 witnesses must be present, or the Wills Act really requires that 2 witnesses are present who must see you sign and sign in each other's presence as well. And so there's some technicalities in relation to making a will. I'll go through quickly. If you make any alterations, then those must be properly signed, and you should initial if there are any changes. Importantly, if you're getting a gift under the will, you really should not witness, because if you do, it will invalidate your gift. I want to just make a couple points quickly. If you're making a will, or if you, let us say you got married yesterday, and you made a will last year and you got married yesterday. Today, it would mean that your will is null and void, because marriage under our laws nullifies a will. Importantly though, not divorce. So we want to make the point that when you contemplate marriage, you want to make new provision. And if you go through a divorce and you feel that you should adjust your estate differently, then you really want to make a new will. And the beauty about wills is that you can make a new will every single day if you wish. There's nothing binding you to a will that you would have made last year or the year before. Testamentary freedom is the order of the day when it comes to making wills, and that allows you to make a will as you're choosing and with the considerations that you have in mind. A will be invalid if it's improperly executed, as we said. And certainly if I intended to give you everything on my passing and one day you upset me to unbearable ends and I decided to tear up that will, that is a revocation of the will. And so nothing in that will would be effective. There would be no provision effective to pass property. And we just come quickly now to what happens when you have no will. The law sets out a table of distribution, who will get what, and I'll just go quickly through it. But in relation to an estate, this is now on your passing, where there is no probate, no executor, then the person who is to be appointed by the court has to actually wait until the court has issued a grant of administration before they can act in the matter. And of course, you can see that that could create challenges for those who are left in limbo until the court process is complete. Again, there's some bureaucracy when we come to dealing with minor children. The Administrator General actually has a duty to intervene and obtain a grant and there is an estate and there are any beneficiaries in that estate that are under 18. So this is all more reason for you to go ahead and make that will, because I'm certain you would rather have your loved one in charge or your trusted ones in charge of your estate rather than a government appointed official. And so just quickly, this is how an estate is shared under the law. And we go into personal chattels, not that in relation to business, but personal chattels, $10,000 or 10% of the net value of the estate, whichever is greater, plus interest and some more, as in this schedule here. I won't spend too much time on it, but just to say that the spouse is the first qualifying person, and then children, brothers and sisters, parents, grandparents, uncles. And if there is none, I want you to know that your property may really end up going to the government, bona vacanter, we say. So make a will. It's less time consuming. It identifies the assets and you know clearly who will be getting what. It helps to prevent false claims, because then you don't have people coming forward and claiming they're your children, claiming they're your spouse, claiming they're your cousins. When you have a will, there's clear entitlement because the will outlines it. It prevents family squabbles as well. You stay out of the Administrator General's office, and certainly wills and any tools that we've covered here today bring peace of mind to you as the person, because then you know that what you've put in place will fairly take care of what your plan is for your estate. Quickly speaking, there are some tax exemptions to be gained when you structure your affairs accordingly. Stamp duty is minimized, death duties are minimized. So in summary, there is an arsenal of tools for estate planning. The easiest one that you may be able to do on your own is to go ahead and make a will. If you think you need legal support, please go ahead and get it. You want to consider things like appointing a guardian for a minor. If you want a trust in your will, you could also consider a trust, a living trust, as they say, or the power of attorney, or the living will. Remember now that you want to review your will frequently, or as the circumstances of life demand. So if you are acquiring new property, you have the birth of children or grandchildren, certainly on marriage or the death of a beneficiary. You want to look at your insurance policies, ensure that they're sufficient to meet the needs that you hadn't expected, ensure that someone is named. You want to add the intended beneficiary to your bank account as a joint tenant. And where practical, you want to hold assets as joint tenants. And so that kind of, in a nutshell, is what we have in the arsenal of all the legal toolkit to deal with estate planning, not just your will, but much more. So thank you so much for paying attention, and I'd be happy to answer a few questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Bertram, for that comprehensive presentation. Of course, I'm sure many of our participants will want to ask questions, but in the interest of time, I'm going to limit to 4 questions. But before I do so, may I ask for a seconder from the Kiwanis Club of Kingston for a motion of extension of 15 minutes?
So moved.
Thank you very much, DLG Willie.
Good.
Yes, I see 3 hands are up.
Okay.
Yes, I'll go in order of DP Dudley from North St. Andrew, followed by our DP Desmond and IPP Almarie. Go ahead, DP.
Sorry, President, my hand up was to second the motion.
Okay, thank you very much, DP Desmond. My apologies.
Thank you very much, President Paul. My question, guest speaker, has to do with power of attorney. Apart from death, and I suspect if the person is now of unsound mind, what other circumstance or circumstances would render the power of attorney to be nullified?
Well, there could be an occasion where it is revoked, where the person who makes the power takes another step to have a written document prepared called a revocation of the power, and that would nullify the power. It would also be nullified, as you said, on death. And if it is that the person is now of unsound mind, it seems to me that an application could be made to the courts to appoint a committee for the management of the affairs of that person. So in that case, the parties appointed as the committee could then have the power revoked.
Very quickly, I have been appointed, given power of attorney, and I cannot remember it having been revoked.
Well, I don't know if the owner of the power, the maker, wants you to continue acting on his or her behalf, but that could be a discussion.
Okay, thank you. Understood.
Yes, thank you very much, DP Dudley. I see Mrs. Clark Sinclair, and I'll move to the next person, IPP Almarie. Mrs. Clark Sinclair, over to you.
Thank you, President Paul. Pleasant evening. Wonderful presentation, excellent presentation. It was really eye-opening for me. Guest speaker Bertram, thank you.
Yes.
I am asking a question on the matter of, let me recall, I lost my train of thought. The part where, okay, the will is nullified subsequent to marriage. Am I correct? That's how it is said. Where you have a will, and if you have the will before and then you're married, then the will becomes null and void. Could you just expand on that?
That is so.
Yes.
Well,
So
it's pretty clear. Our Wills Act says.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Wills Act is very clear that if you marry, that act revokes a former will. And so you will have to make new provision. I suppose the policy behind that is that thinking that now that you're married, you are going to have different considerations, but the law has decided that you must have different considerations. And so our statutes, our laws provide for the revocation of a will on marriage.
Oh, let's make. So then it means you have to now make a new will.
Absolutely.
So there's no addendum.
No addendum.
There's no provision.
That is, it is as plain as that. It is as plain as that. Yes.
All right. Great, thanks so much.
Okay.
Yes. IPP Almarie, then I'll get the last question from
Okay, good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. I wanted to ask a question as it relates to if an executor predeceases the owner of the will. What happens if there was no changes made on the will up to the death of the
so if that is the only executor named
that was appointed,
if that is the only executor named, yes. Now if an executor is named on a will and predeceases the maker of the will, what happens? Well, the maker of the will can prepare a new will. That is what I would advise. But if the maker of the will does not prepare a new will, then there is provision for beneficiaries to apply to administer the estate. But you really want to, if it is that you had a particular person in mind, or you want to have control over who it is that acts on your behalf in administering your estate, then I would encourage that will be, a new will be prepared.
Yes, but we know there are instances where there were no changes made, the person predeceased, and so family, I get that situation where the families can then appoint somebody to take over the executive's position.
I would say that the court allows that a beneficiary named in the will may be appointed as an administrator.
Okay.
If the will is not done.
And can a guardian be a beneficiary of the will as well?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, PE Derek.
Thank you, President. Good evening to you. Good evening to you also, Abiola, and thank you for a wonderful and enlightening presentation. My question is real quick. What signatures are required on a power of attorney to make it a legal and authentic document?
Well, the person giving the power and a witness, a justice of the peace or notary public, or someone signing in your presence and then properly witnessing the document. So it is a deed, and a deed requires a certain kind of execution, but the signature that is required is that of the giver of the power, your signature only. It doesn't require the person who is receiving the power to sign.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, PE Derek. And I'll take the last two hands that are up. DP Earl, followed by Mrs. Barnes-Simmons. DP Earl, over to you.
Thank you, President Paul. I suppose this is the time I get to say, Dear Abby.
Yes, please go right ahead.
Yes. I note that you said that you avoid a probate, but I thought all wills were probated. I mean, you may not have a problem, but I thought all wills had to be probated. What are the, and then you did say that once it's probated, it becomes public. Everybody knows, can know about it because it's in the court. Could you
Yes,
explain?
certainly. So when a will is admitted to probate, that is when the court now pronounces for the validity of the will, approves of the appointment of the executors. Yes, the will becomes a public document. And yes, it is recorded at the Registrar Island Record Office, Registrar General's Department, where it is a public record and that can be inspected by anyone. Now, if you have used that toolkit that we looked at a little earlier, and there's nothing that actually falls in your estate because you have your insurance policies, all your property held is jointly held. You've created a trust in your lifetime. There may be no property that you have that is vested in your name only, and that goes to your estate. And so in that case, it would not be necessary to apply for probate of a will.
Okay. All right, thank you.
The probate would be necessary to transfer assets from the estate to named beneficiaries. But if there is no asset to transfer, then there is no need for probate. And that's perhaps the ideal situation, since probate does take some time and cost some amount of money.
Yes, yes. All right, thank you. The other question was going to be the attorney versus executive, but I think you answered it, so I'm all right. Thank you.
Power of attorney is during lifetime, for sure. And an executor is on passing. Their executorship begins at the date of death.
Yeah, that was very enlightening.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Yes, we'll have a question from Mrs. Barnes-Simmons. Then we move to the vote of thanks. Yes, over to you, Mrs. Barnes-Simmons.
Thank you very much, President Paul. Mrs. Bertram, thanks for your very informative and interesting presentation. It was really good. Quick question is about trust as opposed to will. If you've established a trust and you put your assets in that trust, do you still need to have a will? And the other question I have on that is, do you have to pay, when you transfer your assets into a trust, do you have to pay, what are the costs involved in that, just generally? Thanks.
Yes, and that is the reason that the cost aspect is the reason that I think we are not using trust as frequently, because to fund the trust, we have to actually transfer the assets, if we already have them, from ourselves into the trust. And that can be a pretty penny, because if we're talking about real estate and shares, we're talking about transfer tax at a rate of 2% of the value. And then you're talking about whatever attendant fees that there may be involved in doing that on the legal fee side. And so funding the trust has been a challenge in my mind for persons who may wish to take advantage of trust, but are limited because of the cost factor. And you mentioned another issue in relation to trustees.
If you have a trust, do you still need to have a will?
I would encourage you to have a will. I would always encourage you to have a will, because you never know at the time of death what may fall to your estate. You may have made wise provision with what you know, but at the time of death, there may be things coming to you that you had no idea you were entitled to. In Jamaica, oftentimes, unfortunately, states may take some time to administer. And 15 years down the line, people are hearing, oh, you were named as a beneficiary in your aunt's estate and the property was just sold. Now, if you don't have a will, then the law will say who will get what, and that may not accord with what your wishes would be.
Okay.
So I would always encourage to make, in the event that all provision has not been made for all of your assets.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, President Sean, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question. I will have the last two questions from our Kiwanis Club in Toronto, P. Letner.
And President, if you'll accommodate the president of St. Hugh's Key Club.
Yes.
She has a question.
Yes, thank you very much, DP Desmond. P.
Okay,
Letner.
thank you, President Paul. Miss Abiola, how are you? My question to you is, both parents have passed. A house was left into the names of 7 siblings. One has passed. How do you make a will and add that portion of the property to the person, to the beneficiary in your will?
So let us say you're one of the 7. So you would say, my interest in the family home at so-and-so, I bequeath to my daughter. So it has not vested in you yet, but you have a beneficial interest coming. The legal interest is not in you yet. It's not transferred into your name, but you know something is to come from your parents' estates. And so in your will, you want to make provision that says, whatever interest that I have in the family home, I'm going to give to so-and-so.
Okay.
So there's clear indication that 1, you're expecting a property which not everybody may know of, and 2, you're identifying the person who is to benefit from that property.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, P. Letner.
Thank you, President.
Yes, and our SLP President Deborah from St. Hugh's. President Deborah.
Good afternoon. Yes. So my question is, in the case that I am to leave Jamaica for, let's say, however long, and I get a power of attorney to represent me in any form of document or legal work that I would I have to be specific as to what legal work or what I would want them to do, or where I would want them to represent me, or would I just have to tell them and they would do it?
Okay, so I'm glad you raised that. A power of attorney is a written document. It is stamped. Once you sign it and is properly witnessed, it is stamped and it is recorded at RGD. And once it is stamped and recorded, and sometimes it's also registered at the titles office. So depending on what the purpose is, it has to go through a process of formalization. And then the person you give that power of attorney would be equipped to act on your behalf. To the extent that they can act would be whatever you have now agreed to have in that power of attorney. So if you want them to act in all your affairs, then they can so act because the power would have said so. If you want to limit them to only acting to, let us say, going to the bank, then it would be limited to that. They couldn't do any transaction with land, for example. So a power can be tailor-made, and it is as wide or as narrow as you would wish it to be. So if you're leaving, I suspect that you would want it to be wide, because if you're not sure when you will return, then you may want assistance with all your affairs. So I would recommend a general power of attorney in that circumstance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Bertram. But to do the vote of thanks, I'm going to call an IPP. Anne-Marie.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say we have a lot to be grateful for, and our meeting would not have been completed without us showing our appreciation for all you wonderful people who have come on and joined in. We know that education is important, and some of us, we stay in the dark from time to time. And it's lovely when we have presentations such as this, where we can come on and share. So at this time, I just want to recognize all those who have brought greetings far and wide. All those who have come, we say far and near, from the east and from the west to share in this online presentation. All our LGs and DLGs and our directors, we want to say thanks for sharing your presence at this time. And the various Kiwanis clubs from the various divisions who are online, we see we have a very good turnout. We want to thank you all for coming and joining in this our joint meeting. I know you would have been well informed and you have gained some insight as to how to structure your business from our attorney who has made such a comprehensive, informative, and enlightening presentation. I have heard various presentations from time to time as it relates to wills and stuff, but I know this one has has given me some additional insight as to some information that I may not have heard before. And so I just want to thank you, um, Mrs. Abiola. Yes, thank you for being here and we appreciate your presentation. Well done, well presented. Okay, and thank you all for coming on and sharing those who asked the question and all of that. If you notice, your certificate is being shown on the screen. Okay, so we appreciate your presentation. And we are looking forward to more joint meetings as such as this, where we can share and be educated. Thank you all for coming on, and thank you all, and thanks again to our presenter, our main presenter. God bless you all.
Yes, thank you very much, IPP Almarie. Mrs. Bertram, I see in the chat they're asking which Kiwanis club are you going to join from Stefan from downtown Kingston. Continue.
And I also see I have a lot of options. So
very good presentation, and thank you so very much on behalf of Kingston Club and of course Garden Parish Ocherius for sharing this informative presentation with us this evening. I'm going to call on, yes, thanks again. I'm going to call on Kiwanis Anne-Marie from the Garden Parish Ocherius to introduce the new prospects.
Good night again, everyone. Thank you, President Paul. The Kiwanis Club of the Garden Parish, we have 6 prospects. Miss Icorine Barrett, who is a teacher, Miss Tracy Williams, a psychologist, Miss Tracy Ann Webb, vice principal, Elaine Burton, who is also a teacher, Jennifer White, who is a court officer, and my daughter Leonie Wigan, who is an insurance underwriter. Some of the prospects are online, and we're hoping to have them join us in the very near future. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, Kiwanis Anne-Marie. That's great. I mean, we always welcome more hands on deck in our Kiwanis movement, and of course, I'm looking forward to join in you further in collaborative efforts with your prospects as they soon to become Kiwanians. I'm going to call on DP Earl Spencer to our Sarge at arms.
President Paul.
Yes, PDT Ralston.
I might not have been attentive throughout the entire meeting, but I noticed that the Lieutenant Governor is on. And I don't know if she has anything to say to us.
Thank you very much, PDT Ralston. Our LG Rosie had brought greetings earlier. So I think you
Okay,
are.
okay. My
Yes.
apologies then, President.
Charge him. Yeah, thank you very much for that observation. I really appreciate it. In fact, both LGs brought greetings, LG CJ from Division 24 and our own LG from Division 23 Central.
Thank you, President Paul. I see the past trustee Ralston is just making sure, because sometimes we think we have said things, but he's doubling up for us. He may be doubling up for his club. So he should pay 2 fines tonight, right? One for Stonehill and one for his own presence here. When I was looking at the list of participants, I saw a strange name, a bishop, attorney, mediator, trainer. And good thing I read it again. And then I heard the introduction, Anne-Marie Bishop, who is an attorney, a mediator, and trainer. But it was just written, a bishop, attorney, mediator, trainer. I said, whoa, who is this? Well, I think she should, well, I hope her club finds her for a thing. I can't find her. And then after listening to our guest speaker, with whom I'm very acquainted, I recall the observation that where there is a will, there's a relative.
There's a relative.
And some may remember the thoughtless, prospective inheritor whose father was very wealthy and was really dying. But he was a bachelor, and then he thought it would be a good idea to go and announce at a pub that he was about to be a rich man. A beautiful but sultry woman came over to him, embraced him, and whispered to him, and he gave her his address. When he got home, she was his stepmother. So, you know, some people just chatted too early, but I couldn't help but remember that one. Not much more fun for you tonight. Thank you, President Paul.
Yes. Thank
Clap
you.
him. Clap him.
Yes. Thank you very much, DPR, for that one. We move on to notices and announcements. Secretary DLG Willie, and I'll have Secretary Marshani from the Kiwanis Club of the Garden Parish, Ochiris, with their notices and announcements.
Thank you, President Paul. In the interest of time, just 3 quick notices. Fellow Kiwanians, the funeral service for Pastor Rector Dudley may be held at Gregory Park New Testament Church of God, that's situated across from the Kiwanis Police Station. That's at 9:30, Thursday coming. The service as well will be streamed from Melbourne Cricket Club. So those who cannot attend the church service are welcome to come down to Melbourne Cricket Club and watch the streaming. That begins at 9:15. The family has invited members of the club to their setup tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock at Melbourne Cricket Club. So those of us can come down and support the family. I'm sure they'll be happy to see us. Just a reminder, the next divisional council meeting, please make a note, Kiwanians, we need your support. It will be held March, that's a Saturday, 26th of March. And the election of new district trustee will be held on the 2nd of April. Regarding interclubbing opportunities, I will send out a schedule tomorrow on the WhatsApp. So over to you then, Marshani.
Okay, good evening again, everyone. I'll now allow for different clubs to go ahead and make announcements that they may have regarding upcoming events.
President Audrey.
Okay.
I'm DP Desmond from Kiwanis Club of Kingston. Tomorrow, DLG William, President Paul, we have the launch of the Terrific Kids program at Lanneman's Prep at 8:30. Just to say that due to the COVID restrictions, we'll have to limit our team to 4, not more than 4 persons. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcement? All right, I have 2 announcements or 2 interclubbing opportunities. The Kiwanis Club of Charlton, Alexandria will be hosting a Reggae Month feature tomorrow. That is February 23, tomorrow. And the Kiwanis Club of Garden Parish on February 26 will be hosting a lapathon. And this is scheduled to take place at the St. John's Preparatory School in Shaw Park, Ocho Rios. Zoom link will be sent, and we are inviting persons who feel adventurous and want to lose a little of those that excess weight that you gain during the COVID period. That time we were at home before we started going out. Here is an opportunity. It begins at 6 and it finishes at 9. So it's from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's this Saturday at the St. John's Preparatory School. The link will be shared, and of course, our account number will be shared too. So you can be a part of it just the same. You can do your laps and send in your videos, and you can make your donations based on the number of laps that you do. All right, so those are 2 announcements and 2 interclubbing opportunities. Are there any other interclubbing opportunities or announcements? All right, over to you, President Paul.
Yes, thank you very much, President Audrey. Well, we'll move to the thought for the week, and I'll call on DP Stewart at this time.
Thank you, President Paul. It was Socrates who said, there is only one good, and that is knowledge. And there's only one evil, and that is ignorance. And then Voltaire had this comment. He said, behind every successful man stands a surprised mother-in-law. And those are my 2 thoughts for the week.
Yes, thank you very much, DP Stewart.
Trying to figure out surprise mother-in-law.
I thought behind every successful man, the woman telling him not to do it. Anyway.
No, the woman would take offense to that. They are beside.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, DP Stewart. Yes, I'll leave to President Audrey to terminate this joint meeting.
All right. Okay. So it was great for us to be here. It was a pleasure of mine, President Paul, for us to interclub. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who have joined us tonight. Really appreciate your presence here this evening. So we'll now raise our imaginary glasses in toast to Kiwanis International, a friendly and peaceful Jamaica. Safe journey home. Oh, we're at home. God bless you all. Thank you. The joint meeting of the Kiwanis Club and the Kiwanis Club of Garden Parish and Kiwanis Club of Kingston is now officially terminated. Thank you.
And
God bless you.